had that awakening, which for me it sounds like your experience was about pain, body, depression, suicide. You do not feel it. Like, when was the last time that you had to be aware of desire or fear rising up in yourself? And if it isn't very often, how do you consume culture? How do you participate in a culture that, for me, as we've discussed, is a manifestation of that kind of egoic consciousness and continually tries to sort of attach nodes onto you to electrify you into fear and desire? What happens? When do you experience it? Do you ever experience it, the original phenomena?
I enjoy things. Sometimes I enjoy a couple of glasses of wine with dinner. Do I have a desire? I suppose it could be called a desire. I would be, if I didn't have it, it would be fine too. So it's not I don't really have much desire for anything. My favorite, sometimes people ask me, what do you do for fun? I say, fun? Actually, my most enjoyable moments are the times when I'm not doing anything at all. I just enjoy the being of this moment. It could be contemplative. Sometimes I just sit here and look out of the window at the trees. I look at the sky. I breathe. I look at items of furniture, and it's just so peaceful and wonderful, everything around me. And and I could sit here for some half an hour or an hour it is so beautiful. I suppose that's my fun. It's not what usually would be called fun, but to feel the being. Now, being is another word for what we're talking about. To feel ultimately, so it's not just what you see when you're contemplative. We contemplate things. Contemplate, by the way, is related to temple. It's sacred. There's something sacred to it. Contemplation. So if real contemplation, there's something sacred, because you mentioned the word sacred earlier, which is a word that you hear very rarely in the modern world. I haven't heard the word sacred on CNN recently or in the New York Times. Sacred is a rare word because most people have no idea what you're talking about. But sacred is in a very important dimension. It's an aspect of exactly what we are pointing to here. So when you contemplate the world around you and in its beingness, the trees, but even so-called inanimate objects are actually like sometimes to just, you touch them, they're there in their simple beingness. And what really underlies all that is feeling within the joy of just being, the joy of being alive, of being. And that is what in India, in the Indian Hindu tradition, is called Satchitananda. Satchitananda are three words that are strung together as if were one word. Sat means being, Chit means consciousness, and Ananda means bliss. So if you string these together, being, consciousness, bliss is a single thing or no thing to realize. So when you are in that state of Satchitananda, it's a simple realization that you are the beingness of you. But when I say you, it goes far beyond what you think of yourself as a person. You have transcended who you are as a person, because your personal history is totally irrelevant. You can whether you sit on your private jet or in a prison cell, you can sense Satchitananda within yourself. But it's more likely that you will sense it in the prison cell than in your private jet. More likely.
Oh, wow.
So that is the deepest joy. I find the deepest joy then in the beingness, beingness. So because we could divide again what to talking about the two dimensions, we could use the terms doing and being. So these are the two aspects of life. The doing is to do with, because time is needed to do anything. You need future to do anything. You need time comes in. You're active. All thinking is doing. When you think, you're doing something. You're doing the thinking. Well, you're not, in many cases, you are not doing the thinking, but the thinking is done for you. It possesses you. You don't, people say, I think. They don't think. In most cases, when there's no awareness, thinking happens to you. You're not thinking. The mind has a life of its own. In the same way, you wouldn't say, I'm beating my heart. The heartbeat is happening to you. But this is also true in the absence of awareness. You are just possessed by the thinking mind. It does what it wants to do, and you think you are it. So that's just an aside. So the doing, thinking is doing also. The doing dimension, there's always the next thing that you need to be concerned with. What do I do now? What do we do next? Some people, doing is all they know. Again, the same thing we talked before. In families, if you go to families, children, have you done your homework? Have you done, now do this, brush your teeth, do that. The only way they relate to their children is through some kind of, either they say, stop doing it or do it. So that's all there ever is. And there's something so vitally missing, and that's the being dimension. To be able to look at your child, to be able to listen to your child, to give them your complete attention, but not conceptually, but in that spacious awareness, to look at the child, to recognize their beingness. But only that is only possible if you recognize your own beingness, and then you recognize the child's. Now, the children, they know when that is not there in the family, in the home, in the family. They realize unconsciously that something is missing, because you only operate on the level of doing. And then as they grow up and then they reach 13 years old, often they become more and more unhappy. Many children these days become more and more unhappy. And even before that age, many children have attention deficit syndrome, whatever it's called, restlessness. And of course, yes, something has to do also with the continuous use of electronic devices, iPads and all that stuff. Yes, that has something to do with it too. But there's also the lack of the being dimension in the home environment, in the parents, because ultimately the child has never been recognized. That's for who they are in the depths of their being. All interaction has been taking place on the level of doing, which is the level of mind. Of course, they're all well-meaning parents, because they want to do the right thing for their children. but no matter how much doing you do in wanting to do the right thing for your child, no doing is ever enough if you neglect the dimension of being. So that's essential. The two worlds, we need to have one foot in the world of doing and one foot in the world of being.